This is Mr. Horton, and this is Mayor Hubble is in trouble. We're on page 1. The Return of Mr. Wiggles. My name is AJ, and I hate ferrets. Did you ever see a ferret? They are these disgusting brown animals that look like long, skinny rats. My friend Neil, who we call the nude kid, even though he wears clothes, has a pet ferret. His name is Mr. Wiggles. Last year, Neil brought Mr. Wiggles to school on Crazy Pet Day. He escaped from his cage and climbed into a hat that belonged to this crybaby girl named Emily, while it was on her head. Emily freaked and went running out of the room. It was hilarious. You should have been there. We saw it live and in person. This year, we didn't have a Crazy Pet Day. We had Adopt a Pet Month. My teacher, Mr. Granite, said we could bring in a pet, and each of us would have to take it home for a night and take care of it. Okay, who brought in a furry friend today? Asked Mr. Granite, who is from another planet. I forgot, I said. I forgot, said my friend Ryan, who will eat anything, even stuff that isn't food. I forgot, said Michael, who never ties his shoes. I forgot, said Alexia, who is a girl that rides a skateboard all the time. In case you were wondering, everybody was saying they forgot to bring in a pet, except for one person, Neil the nude kid. I remembered, shouted Neil. He took Mr. Wiggles out of his cage. Ugh, it was disgusting. He's adorable, said all the girls. Kill him, yelled all the boys except for Neil. I'm scared, said Emily, who's scared of everything. What can you tell us about your ferret, Neil? Asked Mr. Granite. Well, when Mr. Wiggles gets excited, he starts hopping sideways and bumping into things, Neil said. It's called the Weasel War Dance. That's interesting, said Mr. Granite. Does anyone else know anything about ferrets? Ooh, said Andrea Young, this girl with curly brown hair. She was waving her arm around like she was trying to be rescued from a desert island. Andrea is so annoying. In her spare time, she reads the encyclopedia for fun. Male ferrets are called Hobbs, Andrea said, and females are called Jills. Very good, Andrea, said Mr. Granite. Why can't a truck full of ferrets fall on Andrea's head? What do ferrets eat? Asked Emily. They eat girls named Emily, I said. Yee! Emily screamed, and then she went running out of the room. Sheesh, get a grip. That girl will fall for anything. Emily is weird. So are ferrets. There's an asterisk right there. What does any of this have to do with Mayor Hubble? Chapter 2. The Shut Up Peace Sign. Page 7. Neil put Mr. Wiggles in his cubby, and then we pledged the allegiance. Okay, let's get to work, shall we? Said Mr. Granite. We're way behind and have a lot to cover, so turn to page 23 in your math book and... Mr. Granite didn't get a chance to finish his sentence because an announcement came over the loudspeaker. All classes, please report to the all-purpose room. Not again, said Mr. Granite, slamming his math book shut. We had to walk a million hundred miles to the all-purpose room, which is a room that is used for all purposes, so it has the perfect name. There were flags, banners, and red, white, and blue stuff all over the place. Nobody knew why. I had to sit next to Andrea. Ugh, disgusting. Everybody was talking, so our principal, Mr. Klutz, made a peace sign with his fingers. That means, shut up. Everybody stopped talking. Election day is coming up, said Mr. Klutz, who has no hair at all. To help you learn about democracy, we're going to have elections at elementary school. Each of you will get to vote for one of your classmates to be president of your grade. Doesn't that sound fun? Yes, shouted all the girls. No, shouted all the boys. Then Mr. Klutz told us about democracy. In a democracy, he said, all people have an equal say. Blah, 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 blah. Equality and freedom. Blah, 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 blah. Liberty. Blah, blah, blah. Constitution. Blah, blah, blah. Majority rule. Blah, 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 blah. The right to vote. Blah, blah, blah. Freedom of speech. Blah, blah, blah. And whoever gets the most votes is the winner. While Mr. Klutz is talking, kids started making faces, doodling in their notebooks, and shooting rubber bands at each other. I thought I was going to die from old age. But you'll never believe who came running into the door while Mr. Klutz was talking. Nobody! It would hurt if you ran into a door, but you'll never believe who came running into the doorway. It was Mayor Hubble! I thought Mayor Hubble was in jail, whispered Andrea. He was. What happened was that gold had been discovered in our playground, and Mayor Hubble tried to steal it, but he was caught and sent to prison. We were all surprised to see him. He came bounding up onto the stage, followed by 3 bodyguards. They were big guys with necks that were almost as thick as their heads. "Mayor Hubble," said Mr. Klutz, "to what do we owe the pleasure of your company? I thought you were in jail." Look at that asterisk right there at the end of company. That's grown-up talk for, "What are you doing here?" I got time off for good behavior," Mayor Hubble said, "so I'm running for mayor again. I hope all the parents of your students will vote for me." He made peace signs with both of his hands and waved them in the air while everybody clapped. "Why is Mayor Hubble making the shut up peace sign?" I asked. "That's not the shut up peace sign, Arlo," Andrea said, rolling her eyes. "She calls me by my real name because she knows I don't like it. He's making the V for victory sign. It looked like the shut up peace sign. If you ask me, they should have 3 different signs for peace, victory, and shut up. It would be a lot less confusing." I made a peace sign and stuck it in Andrea's face, but it didn't mean peace, and it didn't mean victory. Chapter 3. Rule the School. Later, we were having lunch in the vomitorium. That's a room that used to be called the cafetorium until some first grader threw up in there last year. Andrea and her girly girlfriends were sitting at the table next to us. Me and the guys let Alexia sit at our table because she's cool. "Guess what?" Andrea said really loudly, so everybody would have to hear. "I've decided that I'm going to run for president of the 3rd grade." All the girls were hugging her and telling Andrea she would make a great president. "Aww." "After I win the election," Andrea said, "I was thinking that we should have a dress code at elementary school. If we all wore uniforms, it would be easier to pick out our clothes in the morning." "That's a great idea," said Emily, who thinks all of Andrea's ideas are great. "I really think she can make this school a better place," said Andrea. "Hey, if you want to make the school a better place," I yelled at her, "why don't you switch to another school?" "Oh, snap," said Ryan. "That's mean, Arlo." After lunch, we went outside for recess. The guys and Alexia pulled me over to the corner by the monkey bars where Andrea and her girly girlfriends couldn't hear us. "The president rules the school, you know," said Michael. "I don't want Andrea being in charge." "I don't want to wear a uniform," said Alexia. "Andrea will probably turn the school into a prison," said Ryan. "It's going to be horrible," said Neil the nude kid. "We need somebody to run against Andrea." Yeah, everybody agreed. I looked around. Michael was looking at me. Ryan was looking at me. Alexia was looking at me. Neil was looking at me. Everybody was looking at me. "What are you looking at me for?" I asked. "You should run for president of the 3rd grade, AJ," said Alexia. "Yeah," everybody agreed. "Why?" I asked. "I don't want to be president. That's for nerds." "AJ, if you don't run, Andrea will become president," said Michael. "She's going to make us wear uniforms and turn this school into a prison. She'll probably close the boys' bathroom and make us hold it in all day," said Ryan. "So why don't one of you guys run?" I asked. "You're the only one who can beat her, AJ," said Neil the nude kid. "Well, I don't want to run," I said. "AJ," said Michael, "if you don't want to run against Andrea, that means you must be in love with her." "That's right," everybody agreed. "What?" I shouted. "It does not. It just means that I don't want to be president." "Ooh," Ryan said. "AJ doesn't want to run against Andrea. They must be in love." When are you and Andrea going to get married?" asked Michael. "Shh, shh, shh," I said. Okay. I'll run for president of the 3rd grade. If those guys weren't my best friends, I would hate them. Chapter 4. Super Secret Strategy Session. We needed to have a meeting in a place where Andrea and her girly girlfriends couldn't spy on us. Ryan has a cool treehouse in his backyard, so we decided to meet up there. Michael, Neil, and Alexia came over to Ryan's house after school. "I don't know anything about elections," I told the gang. "How am I going to beat Andrea? Does anybody have any ideas?" "You need a slogan," suggested Alexia, "like AJ puts the cool in school." "You should get the Nobel Prize for that," I said. And that has an asterisk. Look at the bottom of page 24. That's a prize they give out to people who don't have bells. "How about AJ puts the drool in school?" suggested Michael. That doesn't make any sense," said Ryan. "There's no D and R in the word school." "We should make a commercial and put it on TV during the Super Bowl," suggested Neil the nude kid. "The Super Bowl's in January," said Michael. "It's too late. The election is in November." "How about we make one of those Batman signs and project it on the sky at night?" suggested Ryan. "That's dumb," I told him. Hey, nobody likes to floss, right? Said Alexia. So what if we knock on people's doors and show them how to floss correctly and tell them to vote for AJ? That's the dumbest idea in the history of the world, said Neil the nude kid. Well, I'm stumped, said Michael. Your legs are amputated? I asked. No, dumbhead, he replied. Stumped means... But he didn't get the chance to finish his sentence. You'll never believe in 1,100,000 years whose head popped up into the treehouse at that moment. It was Mayor Hubble. I heard you were running for president of the third grade, AJ, he told me. I came to help you win the election. How did you know we would be holding our super secret strategy session up here, asked Ryan. I was a boy once, you know, said the mayor. Just once, I said? I'm a boy all the time. Look, AJ, said the mayor, let's get down to business. You don't like Andrea, do you? No. You want to beat her on election day, don't you? Yeah. You want to humiliate her, right? Yeah. You want her to wish she was never born? Yeah. Well, I have a plan to help you win the election, said the mayor. What is it? We all asked. I'm not going to tell you, said the mayor. Why not? Asked Neil. Okay, I'll tell you, the mayor said. But you have to wait until the next chapter. Why can't you tell us in this chapter? Asked Ryan. Because this chapter's almost over, said Mayor Hubble. There's no room. Why don't you just make this chapter a little longer? Asked Michael, and tell us now. Wait a minute, Alexia said. Why are you guys talking about chapters? Are we in a book or something? Of course we're in a book, I told Alexia. It's a series called My Weirder School. Never heard of it, Alexia said. That's because you're new, I told her. It doesn't matter, said Mayor Hubble. AJ, the point is, if you do what I want, if I tell you to do, you'll beat Andrea in the election. Why do you care whether I win or not in the election? I asked. Because if I help you beat Andrea, said the mayor, maybe you can do something for me. You scratch my back, and I'll scratch yours. What does back scratching have to do with anything? I asked. My back doesn't even itch. AJ, said the mayor, after I help you win the election, the only thing you need to do is to tell all the parents to vote for me. Can you do that? I looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at Neil. Neil looked at Michael. Michael looked at Alexia. Alexia looked at me. It's a deal, I said. Great, said the mayor. Let's keep this our little secret. My lips are sealed, I said, but not with glue or anything. That would be weird. Yuck! Kissing! Gross! Chapter 5. When I got to school the next day, kids and parents were sitting all over the front steps. There were posters, banners, and signs hanging on the fence. Vote for Andrea, gifted, talented, and ready. AJ puts the cool in school. Ryan, Michael, and Neil, the nude kid, were standing around in black t-shirts with their arm crossed in front of them and scowls on their face. What's up with you guys? I asked. We're your bodyguards, Ryan told me. We have to look mean. Yeah, said Neil the nude kid. Somebody might try to attack you. If somebody messes with you, we'll take care of them, said Michael, punching a fist into his open hand. Who told you to dress like that? I asked them. And who made all these signs? They looked all over the sidewalk where Mayor Hubble was leaning against a telephone pole. He winked at me. Ching! And I went over to him. Andrea was up at the top of the steps, standing at a podium. So, in conclusion, Andrea said, that's why you should vote for me to be president of the third grade. Thank you. The kids sitting on the steps clapped and cheered and waved little flags for Little Miss Perfect. Great job, Andrea, said Mr. Clubb. Now it's time to hear from the other candidate for third grade president, AJ. What? I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I had to think fast. Nobody told me I had to give a speech, I whispered to Mayor Hubble. Don't worry about it, he said, slipping me a sheet of paper. Just read this. What is it? It's your stump speech. You want me to speak to people with no legs? I asked. No, not that kind of stump, the mayor said. A stump speech is a standard political speech you give over and over again. I climbed the steps and stood behind the podium. Everybody was clapping, yeah, and cheering like crazy, yeah, go AJ. I was nervous. I had never given a speech before. I started to read from the piece of paper Mayor Hubble gave me. 7 years ago, I said, I had a dream. I had a dream that the ballot was stronger than the bullet. The pen was mightier than the sword, and those who stand for nothing fall for anything. Now, fellow students, I've been to the mountain top, and I can tell you this. Ask not what your school can do for you. Ask what you can do for your school. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Give me liberty or give me death. Read my lips. Tear down this wall. The time for change has come. No man is an island, but if you vote for me, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness shall not perish from this earth. Thank you. Everybody was going crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Alexia was the first one to congratulate me. That was terrific, AJ. What did I just say? I asked her. Who cares, she replied. Listen to that applause. Yeah, yeah. On the other side of the steps, I saw that Andrea was going around shaking hands with everybody, so I figured I had to do that too. My bodyguards surrounded me as I walked around shaking hands with the people on the sidewalk. That's when the weirdest thing in the history of the world happened. Some lady stuck a baby in my face. Ugh! I screamed. What is this baby doing here? It's too young to be in school. Never mind that, AJ, Alexia whispered. Kiss the baby. I'm not kissing a baby, I replied. I don't even like kissing my mother when people are around. Kissing babies are part of running for office, AJ, said Michael. You have to do it. Why? I asked. Babies can't vote. You don't want to kiss my baby? Asked the lady. She looked all sad. AJ, it will look bad if you don't kiss the baby, said Brian. You're going to lose the election, and Andrea will be president. And if you don't kiss the baby, said Neil, that means you love Andrea. I do not, I protested. Kiss it, AJ, said Alexia. I looked at the baby. The baby looked at me. It was drooling. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I wished I could just run away to Antarctica and live with the penguins. I kissed the baby. And when I leaned over to kiss the baby, I'm pretty sure I smelled something bad. I think the baby pooped, I yelled. Ugh, disgusting. I thought I was going to die. Chapter 6, On the Stump. Later that day, Mayor Hubble showed up in the playground at recess. Man, ever since he got out of jail, that guy sure has a lot of time on his hands. The gang and me were playing on the monkey bars when the mayor came over. It's time to go on the stump, AJ. You want me to go stand on a tree that was cut down? Not that kind of stump, Mayor Hubble said. There's an asterisk there. Look at the bottom. Okay. I promise there won't be any more stump jokes. I mean, you've got to campaign for votes. Andrea was standing at the top of the swing set nearby. A bunch of kids were gathered on the ground listening to her talk. When I'm the president of the 3rd grade, Andrea said, I promise there will be plenty of pencils and paper and glue sticks and scissors and crayons in every class. Elementary school will be the best school in the state. Yay! Everybody was cheering. The gang turned to look at me. What are you going to promise to do when you're president, AJ? Asked Mayor Hubble. How should I know? Andrea's making all kinds of promises, said Ryan, so you've got to make some promises too if you want to win. What kind of promises? I asked. It doesn't matter, said Mayor Hubble, as long as you get the kids to vote for you. I climbed up on top of the monkey bars. Attention, 3rd graders! I shouted. I have an important announcement! All the kids who were listening to Andrew came over to the monkey bars. When I'm president of the 3rd grade, I shouted, I promise there will be no more homework. Yay! Everybody started chanting, no more homework. Andrea had on her mean face. I have an important announcement, she shouted. Some of the kids went back over to her. When I'm president, we will have fewer fire drills. That means we'll be able to spend more time learning. Yay! Can you possibly be any more boring? I shouted to Andrea. When I'm president, we'll have more fire drills. In fact, we'll have a fire drill every day with real fires. Yeah! Andrea looked madder than ever. The kids didn't even know if they should listen to her or me, so they started running back and forth between us. When I'm president, Andrea shouted, every student in the school will get their own iPad. You won't have to carry a heavy backpack anymore because all your books will be on the iPad. Yeah! When I'm president, I shouted, there will be a video game system built into every desk in the school. Yeah! When I'm president, Andrea shouted, the water fountains will be filled with lemonade. Yeah! When I'm president, I shouted, every day will be a snow day, even if there's no snow. And we're going to have rain days too. After all, rain is just extremely wet snow. Yeah! And furthermore, I shouted, we're going to take all the hard words out of the dictionary, and we're going to abolish anything higher than the 5 times table. Kids will no longer have to sit in the corner when they misbehave. We're going to make all the classrooms round, so there will be no corners, and all the teachers will be fired and replaced by comic book heroes. Yeah! Top that, Andrea, I shouted, in yo face. Andrea was really mad. It looked like she couldn't think of anything else to promise. If you vote for me, she finally shouted, I'll give you each $1. Everyone gasped. Then they started cheering, yeah! If you vote for me, I shouted, I'll give you $2. Yeah! I'll give you $3 and a candy bar, shouted Andrea. Yeah! We went back and forth like that for a while. Making promises is fun. Chapter 7. How to Wash a Ferret. The next day was the worst day in the history of the world. It was my turn to bring home Mr. Wiggles, Neil the nude kid's disgusting pet ferret. Have fun with Mr. Wiggles, Mr. Granite said when the bell rang. Have fun with Mr. Wiggles, said Ryan. Have fun with Mr. Wiggles, said Emily. In case you're wondering, everybody was telling me to have fun with Mr. Wiggles. The only one who didn't say that was Neil, who told me to be sure to take care of Mr. Wiggles. He gave me some ferret food. Ferrets are gross. I had to carry the cage home from school with me. He's adorable, said my older sister, Amy. Can I hold him? Just be careful, I told her. If Mr. Wiggles escapes, I'm in big trouble. Amy picked up Mr. Wiggles and was rocking him in her arms like he was a baby. He didn't like it, and he started trying to hop back and forth. He's doing the weasel war dance, I told her. That means he's excited. You better stop playing with him. Amy put Mr. Wiggles back in his cage. How do you wash a ferret? Amy asked. I guess you put it in a washing machine, I said. Then you dry it in a microwave oven. You do not, AJ. My mom forced me to keep Mr. Wiggles in my bedroom all night. It was creepy. He just sat in his cage and stared at me. I closed my eyes for a while, and when I opened them again, Mr. Wiggles was still staring at me with those beady little ferret eyes. It was hard to sleep. I like penguins, I whispered to Mr. Wiggles. Do you have any penguin friends? Mr. Wiggles didn't answer. He just stared at me. Penguins are cool, I told him. I wish you were a penguin. You'd be my best friend. Mr. Wiggles just sat there and stared at me some more. He was boring. I decided that when I'm the president of 3rd grade, the first thing I'll do is cancel Adopt a Pet Month. I will ban ferrets from elementary school forever. You are ugly, I whispered to Mr. Wiggles. Mr. Wiggles just stared at me. You are a dumbhead, I said. Mr. Wiggles stared at me some more. He doesn't even understand English. When I count to 3, sit there and do nothing, I said. 1, 2, 3. Mr. Wiggles just stared at me. Wow, that was amazing. I just taught him a trick. Mr. Wiggles wasn't that much fun to be around, but I had a good time insulting a ferret. Chapter 8. The Great Debate. I was walking with Mr. Wiggles to school the next morning when a big black limo pulled alongside me. The window rolled down. Mayor Hubble was inside. Hop in, AJ, he said. I'll give you a ride. I had never been in a limo before. I got in, putting Mr. Wiggles' cage on the seat between us. What's that? The mayor asked. A ferret. It looks like a long rat, said the mayor. AJ, I wanted to tell you that you're doing great. There's no way Andrea can win the election. But you still need to debate with her. I need to go fishing with Andrea? I asked. Not debate, said the mayor. Debate. I was just yanking the mayor's chain. I know what a debate is. That's when 2 people shake hands and then they argue for a while and then they shake hands again and pretend they weren't arguing. Mayor Hubble told me the big debate would be that afternoon. He said he wouldn't be there because he didn't want anybody to know he was helping me win the election. The limo stopped a block from the school to let me out. Remember our deal, Mayor Hubble said. After you win, you tell all the parents to vote for me. I got it, I said. I was nervous all morning. I couldn't look at Andrea. Mr. Granite taught us some stuff about social studies, but I wasn't paying attention. All I could think about was the big debate. Finally, it was 2 o'clock. We had to go to the all-purpose room. The whole 3rd grade was there. Up on the stage were two podiums. I climbed up the steps and stood behind one of them. Andrea went and stood behind the other one. Our librarian, Mrs. Rupee, stood between us. "Good afternoon, third graders," she said. "Welcome to the great debate. Isn't this exciting?" "Yes!" shouted all the girls. "No!" shouted all the boys. "We're going to keep this pretty simple," said Mrs. Rupee. "I will ask the questions and each candidate will give a brief answer. Ready? Let's start with you, Andrea. Why do you want to be president of the third grade?" "That's an excellent question, Mrs. Rupee," said Andrea, who is a big brown-noser. "I want to be president of the third grade so I can help improve the quality of our education here at elementary school." And blah, 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 blah. Andrea went on for 1,100,000 hours. I thought I was going to die. "And why do you want to be president, AJ?" asked Mrs. Rupee. "I want to be president so Andrea will not win," I admitted, "because if she's president, we'll all be marching around in uniforms, doing extra homework, reading Shakespeare plays, and taking dance lessons, and singing songs from Annie." "That's a lie," Andrea protested. "Let's move on," said Mrs. Rupee. "What do you think should be served for lunch in a cafetorium, Andrea?" "I believe the students should have a healthy, nutritious meal every day," Andrea said, "and I will fight so that each and every one of us gets a balanced diet." "That's right," shouted Emily. "I think that we should be able to eat as much junk food as we want," I said. "So, Andrea," said Mrs. Rupee, "would you ban junk food from our cafetorium?" "Yes," Andrea replied. "How will we grow up to be big and strong if we stuff ourselves with that poison?" "There you go again," I said. "You want to take away our freedom, the freedom to poison ourselves? That's in the Bill of Rights, you know." "It is not," Andrea shouted. "I memorized the Bill of Rights, and that's not one of them." "My Bill of Rights came with a bonus features," I said, "like a DVD." Everybody laughed, even though I didn't say anything funny. "Let's move on," said Mrs. Rupee. "Andrea, you have said that recess is too long and that it takes time away from learning. But most of the kids say that recess is too short. What is your feeling now?" "Well, I was for recess before I was against recess," Andrea said. "Make up your mind," I shouted at Andrea. "You're a flip-flopper." "I am not," Andrea shouted. "You're mean, Arlo." "So is your face," I replied. "Well, you're not invited to my birthday party," Andrea shouted at me. Everyone gasped. Not inviting a kid to your birthday party is just about the meanest thing you could do to somebody. "I don't want to go to your dumb birthday party anyway," I shouted back at her. "Okay, settle down, everyone," said Mrs. Rupee. "Describe for me the perfect class field trip. You first, AJ." "We would go see the new Batman movie before it comes out," I said. "Free popcorn for everybody. That would be cool." "Andrea?" "We would fly to Paris and visit the Louvre Museum," said Andrea, "and we would see the Mona Lisa and all the beautiful works of art there." We went back and forth like that for a while. Whenever I said anything, kids would clap and cheer. Whenever little Miss I Know Everything said anything, the only one who clapped or cheered was Emily. I was definitely winning the debate. "It's time for the closing argument," said Mrs. Rupee. "Each candidate will have 5 minutes to say whatever they want. Andrea, you may go first." "I would just like to say, blah, 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 and that's why you should vote for me." "Okay, AJ, you have the floor." "Why would I want a floor?" I asked. "That means it's your turn to talk, dumbhead," yelled Andrea, rolling her eyes. I knew that, I lied. "Well, my opponent has spent the last 1,100,000 minutes spreading nasty lies and calling me names," I said. "So I would like to conclude by saying that Andrea is a poopy head. That's why you should vote for me." "Thank you." The kids went crazy. All you have to do is just say the words poopy head and the kids go crazy. Nobody knows why. The great debate was over. I totally had mopped the floor with Andrea. It was the greatest day of my life. There's an asterisk there after Andrea, but not really. You should mop the floor with a mop. Mopping the floor with a person is just weird. Chapter 9. Playing Hardball. There were only 2 days before the election, and things were looking good. Just about all the kids in third grade said they were going to vote for me. Hardly anybody wanted Andrea to be president. Nobody wanted to wear a uniform and give up recess. Except for Emily, of course. "You're a shoo-in, AJ," Michael told me. I had no idea what shoes had to do with anything. That's when the worst thing in the history of the world happened. When I got to school the next day, everybody was holding a sheet of pink paper. I picked one off the ground. This is what it said. Things you don't know about AJ. He throws paper into the garbage instead of putting it in the recycling box. He changed a C- to a C+ on his spelling test last week. He wears the same underwear 2 days in a row. He didn't get his mother a card for Mother's Day. He uses a magnifying glass to torture defenseless insects. He picks his nose and eats it. Vote for Andrea. Gifted, talented, and ready. Those were lies! Well, most of them were anyway. All of the kids were talking to each other. I heard some of them saying that they were thinking of voting for Andrea instead of me. This was the worst thing to happen since TV turnoff week. I called for an emergency strategy session, and the gang gathered in Ryan's treehouse as soon as school let out that day. Did you really forget to make your mom a card for Mother's Day, AJ? Asked Alexia. I didn't forget, I said. I ran out of time. That's just wrong, man, said Michael. Gee, maybe I should vote for Andrea, said Neil the nude kid. I'm not sure I could vote for a kid who doesn't make his mom a Mother's Day card. I might vote for Andrea too, said Ryan. You can't vote for Andrea, I shouted at them. You're the ones who talked me into this in the first place. I didn't want to run for president. That's when the weirdest thing in the history of the world happened. Boom! Mayor Hubble popped his head into the treehouse. I saw that flyer that Andrea printed up, the mayor said. That girl is very tricky. AJ, it's time for us to play hardball. I didn't bring my glove, I told him. Not that kind of hardball, said the mayor. We need to dig up some dirt. Should I get a shovel, I asked. Not that kind of dirt. Andrea dug up dirt about you, so you need to dig up some dirt about Andrea. It's the only way you can win the election. How can we dig up dirt about Andrea, asked Alexia. Follow me, said the mayor. We all piled into Mayor Hubble's limo and drove over to Andrea's house. The limo driver parked a block away across the street. What are we doing here, I asked. Andrea's never home after school. She's always taking some dance class or piano lessons, so she'll be better than everybody else. I know, Mayor Hubble whispered. That's why we're going to her house now. Mayor Hubble sneaked down the street, hiding behind trees and bushes like he was a secret agent. We all followed him. What if Andrea's parents are home, asked Alexia. Shh, Mayor Hubble said. Shh, her parents are at work. I don't feel good about this, said Ryan. Mayor Hubble led us to the back door of Andrea's house. He searched around until he found a key under the welcome mat. Aha! He said as he put the key into the lock. Isn't it illegal to break into someone's house? I asked. I'm not breaking in, said the mayor. I'm using the key. I can't do this, Neil said. It's wrong. You're not doing it, Mayor Hubble said. I'm doing it. I'm the former mayor, and it's okay. He turned the key and pushed open the door. I was afraid an alarm would go off, but it didn't. Follow me, the mayor said. Let's go upstairs to Andrea's room. We slinked upstairs like secret agents. What if we get caught? Whispered Michael. Shh, said Mayor Hubble. It wasn't hard to find Andrea's room. It was the one with the pink in it. Wow, everybody said, which is Mom upside down. The walls were pink. The bedspread was pink. The rug was pink. The stuffed animals, dolls, and other girl stuff were all over the place were pink. I thought I was going to go blind from all the pinkness. Andrea sure wins a lot of awards, said Alexia. There was a bookcase filled with trophies, plaques, ribbons, and certificates with Andrea's name all over everything. We should get out of here, I said. She might come home any second. Shh, said Mayor Hubble. Look what I found. He was holding a book that was on the desk. The cover said, Andrea's Private Diary. I bet there's some good dirt in there, Mayor Hubble said. You can't read that, said Michael. Sure I can, said the mayor. I'm the former mayor. He flipped through the pages. We all gathered around so we could look over his shoulder. Most of the pages were just boring stuff about Andrea's dance class, Andrea's gymnastics class, Andrea's art class, and then the mayor turned to a page with just 3 words on it. 3 horrible words. The worst words in the history of the world. I like AJ! Ah! Ooh, Ryan said. Andrea likes AJ. They must be in love. When are you and Andrea going to get married? Asked Michael. Can we get out of here now? I asked. I wanted to run away to Antarctica and live with the penguins. Chapter 10. Signs of Trouble. I didn't want to go to school the next day. I didn't want to go to school for the rest of my life. Once word got around that Andrea wrote I like AJ in her diary, my life would be over anyway. So I walked really slowly to school. If you walk slowly enough to some place you don't want to go, you'll never get there. That's the first rule of being a kid. A big black limo pulled up next to me. Psst, said Mayor Hubble as he rolled down the window. Hop in! As we rode to school, he pointed to all the yard signs that people had put up in the front lawns. Vote for Andrea. Vote for AJ. I have a job for you, the mayor told me. You need to take down all the Vote for Andrea signs and replace them with Vote for Mayor Hubble signs. Isn't that stealing? I asked. No, don't be silly, the mayor said. It's borrowing. It's sort of like borrowing a book from the library. After the election, you can give the signs back. I don't know, I said. It seems kind of wrong to me. Look, said the mayor, the election is tomorrow. I thought you said you wanted to beat Andrea. I do. I thought you wanted to humiliate her. I do. I thought you wanted her to wish she had never been born. I do. Well, if you want to win the election, AJ, you need to take down Andrea's yard sign, said the mayor. We didn't dig up any good dirt on her. This is the only way. Okay, I sighed. If you say so. Good boy, said Mayor Hubble as he handed me a bunch of Vote for Mayor Hubble signs. After dinner that night, I told my parents I was going over to Ryan's house to check our homework. But I didn't go to Ryan's house. I grabbed the Vote for Mayor Hubble signs and went out looking for some Vote for Andrea signs. It was getting dark outside. I was slinking around the neighborhood like a secret agent. It was cool. At the first house I came to, there were two signs on the front lawn. One said, Vote for Andrea, and the other said, Vote for AJ. I started pulling the Vote for Andrea sign out of the ground, and you'll never believe in a million hundred guesses who tapped me on the shoulder at that moment. It was Andrea. Ah! I shouted. She was holding an armful of Vote for Mayor Hubble yard signs just like I was. Arlo, what are you doing here, she asked. I'm taking away your yard signs, I told her. What are you doing here? I came to take away your yard signs, she said. Who told you to do this? Mayor Hubble, I told Andrea. He told me to take down your signs and replace them with Vote for Mayor Hubble signs. That's strange, said Andrea. He told me to take your signs and replace them with Vote for Mayor Hubble signs too. Andrea and I looked at each other for a second. You mean Mayor Hubble is helping you win the election? I asked Andrea. Yes. Mayor Hubble has been helping you win the election too? Andrea asked me. Yeah, I said. He told me he would help me win if I told all the parents to vote for him. That's the same thing he told me, said Andrea. So no matter which of us wins, it will be good for Mayor Hubble. She looked really mad. Mayor Hubble is in trouble, she said. Chapter 11. And the winner is... Finally, it was election day. There was a ballot box for each grade in the front of the hallway so kids could vote before going to class. Good luck, man, said Michael. I hope you win, said Neil the nude kid. It's in the bag, AJ, said Ryan. What's in the bag, I asked. You don't even have a bag. After I voted, for myself, of course, I went to the boys' bathroom and put a fake nose and glasses I brought from home. Then I went back to the table with the ballot boxes. My name is Bob, I said. I'd like to vote for the third grade election. Okay. Certainly, said the mom behind the ballot box. After I voted, for myself again, of course, I went back to the boys' bathroom and put on the Batman costume that was in my backpack. Then I went back to the table. My name is Batman, I said. I'd like to vote in the third grade election. Thanks for voting, said the mom as she handed me another ballot. I must have voted for myself at least 10 times. At that point, I ran out of disguises and walked down the hall to class. That's when Andrea stopped me in the hallway. I just wanted to say good luck, Arlo, she said, even though I hope you lose. I hope you lose too, I told Andrea. So good luck losing! I was about to walk away, but I stopped. Hey, Andrea, I said, can I ask you a question? Sure, Arlo, what is it? I just wanted you to know, I said, looking at my feet. Do you like me? I knew I shouldn't have said it. As soon as the words left my mouth, I wanted to stuff them back inside, but it was too late. Andrea didn't answer for like 1,100,000 seconds. It was so quiet. It was like we were in an underground cave and all the other humans had been eaten by zombies. And then Andrea said those 3 little words. Of course not, she said. I can't stand you. Well, I can't stand you either, I told her. Okay, then we're in agreement, Andrea said. May the better candidate win. I didn't say anything else to her as we walked down the hall to class. After we pledged the allegiance and did the word of the day, the whole third grade was called to the all-purpose room to find out who won the election. When we got there, there was electricity in the air. Well, not really. If there was electricity in the air, we would all die. I spotted Mayor Hubble sitting in the front row. He winked at me. Mr. Klutz climbed up on the stage and made the shut up victory peace sign. Everybody stopped talking. He took a sheet of paper out of his pocket. I hope this election helped you kids learn how democracy works, Mr. Klutz told us. You picked your candidates, you watched them campaign, you listened to them debate, you voted, and now the votes have been counted, and it's time to reveal the results. The president of the third grade is... I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'll tell you, but you have to read the next chapter, so boo-boo on you. Chapter 2. Chapter 12. The runoff. Mr. Klutz was about to announce the winner of the election. We were all on pins and needles. Well, not really. That would hurt. The president of the third grade is... Nobody! Everybody gasped. Nobody, I yelled. I'm sorry, said Mr. Klutz, but AJ and Andrea have both been disqualified. Why? Everybody was asking. I've been informed that Mayor Hubble was helping both of them, said Mr. Klutz. Officer Spence, arrest that man! Our security guard, Officer Spence, came running over to Mayor Hubble. You're under arrest, he said as he slapped a pair of handcuffs on the mayor. On what charge? Demanded Mayor Hubble. Trespassing, stealing yard signs, contributing to the delinquency of the minors. But, said Mayor Hubble. Everybody started giggling because the mayor said but, which sounds like but, except it's missing a T. That's not fair, Mayor Hubble yelled as Officer Spence dragged him away. I'm not a crook, I tell you. I'm an honest man. I want my lawyer. After Mr. Klutz made the shut up victory peace sign, everybody calmed down. The teachers went around passing out slips of paper and pencils to all the kids. We're going to have a runoff election to determine the president of third grade, Mr. Klutz told us. You can vote for anyone you want as long as it's not... Look at the asterisk at the end of the T. Grown-ups get mad when you say but. Nobody knows why. As long as it's not AJ or Andrea. Andrea was upset that she was disqualified, but I didn't care. I didn't want to be president anyway. I just didn't want her to be president. We all voted again, and the teachers collected the slips of paper. It took about 1,100,000 hours for them to count up all the votes. Finally, Mr. Klutz went back to the microphone. The winner of the runoff election and the president of the third grade is... He said, Mr. Wiggles. Who's Mr. Wiggles? What? Neil the nude kid's pet ferret was the president of third grade? Everybody was hooting and hollering. Neil was told to go get Mr. Wiggles. He went running to class and came back with Mr. Wiggles in his cage. Hooray for Mr. Wiggles! We started chanting, hooray for Mr. Wiggles! Neil took Mr. Wiggles out of his cage and held him up in the air so we could all see him. Everybody went crazy. It was really loud. Hooray for Mr. Wiggles! That's when the weirdest thing in the history of the world happened. Mr. Wiggles must have been really excited about winning the election because he started doing his weasel war dance and jumped out of Neil's hands. And then, after winning the runoff election, Mr. Wiggles ran off. He hopped down the stage and headed straight for the front row. Eeeeee! Somebody shouted, There's a wild ferret on the loose! Help! Run for your lives! Kids were screaming, yelling, crying, clawing at each other, and knocking each other over to get out of the way. You should have been there. All in all, it sure made for an exciting election day. Maybe Neil will find Mr. Wiggles. Maybe grown-ups will stop saying blah, 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 blah. Maybe Andrea will invite me to her birthday party. Maybe people will stop running into doors. Maybe we'll go on a field trip and see the new Batman movie. Maybe people will stop talking about stumps all the time. Maybe Alexia will realize she is a fictional character. Maybe ladies will stop sticking babies in my face. Maybe I'll make a Mother's Day card for my mom next year. Maybe the guys will stop saying I love Andrea. Maybe Mayor Hubble will find a way to get out of jail again. But it won't be easy. The end.